No, I was too late. Let's go back.
I really see you living here.
Man, New York is really something, isn't it?
The cheapest property I've
The
been
capital of the
to
world, you
was
could say.
1 million, and the most expensive.
The cheapest was 10 million. The cheapest was 10 million. What a special group of people. What a small group of people can afford something like this, man. Holy shit, man. It's these buildings in New York, right, where you go downstairs and there's always this old man with the fucking captain's hat and they're like, hello, sir, I will open the door for you. Oh, fuck, I'm not in the battleground. Shit.
It was 85 million. They manipulate the cities to the disadvantage of everyone
Pluton,
else
all
in
good,
the
man, all good,
cities.
don't worry.
My name is Andi Schmied, and in 2016 I spent 3 months in New York at an artist residency program. Basically, this whole idea
Why do we have to
started.
see in such an artistic picture of her? That picture here, right here, man, that picture just, that's... When I get sponsorship emails, right, it's mostly girls, because you are more likely to say yes. And the pictures are always like this, like an art picture with an old camera, like a Tinder profile picture. To me, this is like very... It's a business picture for creative jobs.
In New York at an artist residency program. Basically, this whole idea started with the biggest cliche that I went up to the Empire State Building and I saw the views, and I basically realized that there are lots of buildings that are as tall or even taller than the Empire State Building, and I just basically was really curious about what
New York is so big, so fucking big.
like. That's when I started to work on my book and my project. I chose 25 buildings, high, ultra luxury towers.
93 stories above the city, this is what $81 million gets you.
Jeez,
a
man.
full penthouse, 8,400 square feet with floor-to-ceiling view.
But who the hell needs 8,400 square feet, man? I don't know how much is that in square meters? 8,400 square feet in square meters. 780, man. That's a lot, man. This is only to show off, isn't it? This is really just... Why?
Views of a
No,
metropolis.
because you can. That's the answer.
My goal was really to show those views that are considered to be the best views you can privately own in New York. First, I really just wanted to photograph the views for the book. As I was going deeper and deeper in this world, it became more and more obvious.
What would you get in Halle for 81 million? You will get the whole city. You'll literally become the mayor for 20 years.
Like something totally bizarre and crazy. I was like
I thought my phone is ringing.
laying in bed, and really I was just thinking, how could I get in those buildings? I remember I told about the project to the curator who was working at the residency, and she told me no way they would ever let you in without a credit check. The only way for that is to pretend to be a billionaire who is searching for an apartment.
Well, as I was looking for an apartment in Leipzig, obviously not for this much money, they would also not ask. Anyone could come. You could be you could be homeless, you could still go there, and they will show you the apartment. No one is asking.
From the moment on that I started to work on the project, this was pretty much the only thing I could think about.
Dude, you feel like you see New York all the time. I've never seen these 3 buildings. I've never seen that before. What the fuck? And how much concrete is in New York?
I started
God
to work
damn.
on the project.
Never
This
seen
was
these before.
Pretty much the only thing I could think about. Write it down, check the
They're
address,
brand new?
go home, check if
Close to
there's any
Central
real estate
Park.
available, call the agency, and usually next day go and see it and take a picture.
New York has almost the same pop as Sweden.
And so really for 3 months I was living in between this Gabriella, which was my billionaire persona, and myself back and forth on the A line from Brooklyn to Manhattan.
I mean, can you even imagine what a billion is? A billion is 999 million plus 1. 999 million. Imagine you have $1,000 in your bank account and it costs you $10 to buy this apartment. That's how that feels. It's nothing for them. If you're a billionaire, like what Elon Musk has, like what, 40 billion or some shit? Dude, that is so unimaginable how much money that is. That is just what? It's almost
My name
nuts,
is
yeah.
Daniel Rosenstein. I've worked in real estate for 4 years. I met Andi.
He has 260 billion.
When
Fuck, that's not true, man.
she was infiltrating New York's most exclusive properties.
Elon Musk has more than 250 billion. You never know what the truth is there. It's mostly just idiots that never involve taxes, man. But what, even if he had just 1 billion, man, that is so much money. Again, in relation, imagine you have $1,000 in your hand, and I give you $10, and you give me the best apartment, one of the best in New York.
I was doing Airbnb
means nothing, right?
in my apartment.
These $10.
In the Upper West
It's
Side.
insane.
And first I remember that he asked me, what are you doing in New York? And when he said he's a real estate agent, I was actually a bit hesitant to tell him what I came here for.
She told me that she was making a book. So I think at first I was like, oh, is she mocking our profession? I'm just a pawn in your project here. And then the more she was talking about it, the more I saw her point of view, which is almost nobody has access to these apartments.
It's a different world.
You have to go through a doorman, you have to reach out to a real estate agent. It's not
Yeah, this is the old school New York, man. You have this guy that is and they're mostly from Eastern Europe, and they're like, hello sir, how you doing today? And they're nice to you, but they never get too friendly, man. If you want to be very close to them, they're like, no. Guys, you can stop talking about Elon Musk's net worth, okay? No,
normal real estate
it's cool.
market
It's
where
cool.
you can show up to an open house. She asked a few questions, I think how to navigate getting into
Sorry, I don't want to get
buildings.
AFK.
I told her to use the term, we're looking for a pied-à-terre or second home in the city. A lot of really wealthy people look for second, third, fourth, fifth homes, and she at that point had...
Can you imagine you're so like Elon Musk has that, right? Imagine you have like homes everywhere in the world. Like you fly to South Africa, Tokyo, New York, and you always have your own home. And there's only you there.
essentially
It's kind of mental, man. Kind of fucked
persona.
up.
Gabriela is my actual middle name because at the beginning I didn't know if they would check my passport ever. And actually at some of the properties they did check it. And I remember back then I got really obsessed by many of these small details, that I need to do my nails and I need to have proper shoes, proper bag. In order to do this project, I needed to bring my camera and photograph the view. This made me obviously very unusual in the eyes of the agent.
Kind of sus, kind of
But I
sus.
also realized that the stranger I act, the more convincing it is that I'm actually a billionaire and I just don't give a shit.
Just
I was
don't give a
really,
shit. That's what the
nervous
billionaire
at
does.
this very first viewing. The agent started to ask me if I have a chef, if I have a nanny, if we have private chauffeur. So I just randomly answered yes and no. And all of these answers kind of became part of what Gabriela
Private
was.
chef, man. Can you imagine that? I'm a big fan of a cooking show in Germany, a very nice cooking show called The Taste. And the people that are mostly becoming finalists, they're winning, are always private chefs. Private chefs seem to be very, very skilled in their work, man. And they just work for one family, man. They always fly with them, they go everywhere to the islands, and they just make food for them all day.
Morning, that this is really where you want to be.
There are a few different types.
I
of
also have a private
kitchens.
chef called
there
Lisa,
are the
true.
ones who
Yeah.
are kind of like very natural and just showing you, here is the kitchen,
Kinda
here is
true.
the bathroom, this is the price, and there is the complete other end of the spectrum.
You will feel, Gabriella, it is like going on a journey from the sidewalks of 19th century old New York to the sidewalks of Florence.
I actually might just prefer the 21st.
So imagine your daughter running around saying words in Hungarian.
She's Hungarian. Thank you, General Petzold, my dude.
It was really hard to kind of like keep a straight face in those viewings. I mean, it was like really bizarre what they were telling me.
Sit down, Gabriella. It really is a moment for you.
I mean, that real estate agent is selling a $10 million apartment. So that means, like, his cut is so big. Jesus, man.
Tell your husband he loves you and he wants you to be happy. I'm sure he will not say no to you if you let him know this is really your first choice.
Damn, that guy sounds like from a movie.
This ultra luxury segment of the real estate is actually now not really going that well. The newer the development, the crazier the amenities they have, because there's really this like huge competition. One of the things that became an absolute standard for these buildings is the golf simulator room. Michelin-starred private restaurant in the building, theater, swimming pool, obviously.
Equinox gym, they have children's playroom, a billiards room, a
Jeez,
conference
man.
room, and everything.
It's like a different world, right? They're like a different class of society,
in one of the
man.
Penthouses,
A parallel
it was
world.
that they would give you a yacht as a present when you buy the apartment. A yacht.
Okay.
You mentioned the number of people who are actually living in poverty, according to the federal poverty numbers. But we all know, living in New York, it's a whole different ballgame.
The average rent across the city has returned to nearly pre-pandemic levels.
We built fewer homes in the 2010s than in any decade going back to the 1960s.
I think the way poverty is usually portrayed is from the bottom. So talk about homelessness, or you talk about people who cannot afford housing. I think when you see it from this like very top of the sphere, it somehow is also very telling. The buildings that you can see from every single corner of the city are these ultra luxury real estate, which are not accessible for anyone really. Apartments and buildings.
Like when you go to Berlin or Frankfurt or Leipzig, they have like 5 skyscraper most. In Leipzig we have like 1, like a small one, and they just have like 100 of
Are
them.
standing 60 to 70% empty.
Commercial and
What 60? What did you say?
70%
Apartments and buildings are standing 60 to 70% empty. What?
commercial and residential.
That's a big problem. They talk about that in Berlin, that the rich motherfuckers are buying a lot of apartments all around the world, Germany, blah, 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 but they don't go there because they don't care, right? They're somewhere else. And then this apartment is kind of empty most of the year. And people that want to live in that city cannot afford anything. There's no more room. And that's a bit of an issue nowadays. And it's going to be a much bigger issue in the future.
Wonderland, featuring some of the city's tallest buildings and most expensive restaurants and condos.
If you are looking to call Steinway Tower home, studios start at $7.7 million. Listen.
They're building a new apartment building right next to me here around the corner, and the cheapest one is 250,000 for a small one, and the biggest one is 620,000 for 4 rooms, right? And that's in my world like, whoa, man. And they start at 7.7 million.
And,
Just a different world, man. And I don't want to. I'm always a follower of reason and logic and centrism and the middle, and I don't think it's very, very leftist when I talk like this, but I think in our nowadays world, with the money some people have, it is logical to raise the question if that system makes sense. Meaning, plainly spoken, is it okay that a human being has $200 billion while some people can't even afford their next rent? I think it's a question that should be raised nowadays, man. And that has nothing to do with being a communist fuck or something. I think that is just logic, man. Some people have won the game of life. They won, they have all the achievements. But maybe you don't need to walk around with 200 billion as the whole world is fucking slowly dying. I don't know.
But if you live in 157, you're paying millions of dollars to live there. Do you want a homeless shelter in your building? I don't think so.
We are not building enough housing for everybody who needs a place to live.
Here's what it's like living in the smallest apartment in New York. Wherever your expectations are, lower them.
So these buildings are kind of really...
That wasn't even that bad. I used to know a guy from Hong Kong, man. That guy lived in a box, man. Literally lived in a box.
In a sense. They are super standardized.
The trends that I see in these properties are a lot of the same finishes and materials used. Some of the floor plans are the exact same. I think it's a really challenging task to create something different when you're working with essentially the same floor plan, which is a tall square or a rectangle in the sky.
Oh wow, who was the interior designer?
Deborah Burke. There is no one better in design at the...
That man sounds like famous, like an actor. He sounds like a voiceover guy, right?
Moment.
So you have always just some very special type of marble in the apartment that the agents would always highlight.
The marble.
I always felt like rich people, when you look at their apartment stuff, like the basic shit you see, are very stale, very monotone, marble, white. I don't know. I personally wouldn't like that. I like a home like this where you see the home, right? Like people actually live here and there's life here.
Is now the best on the market.
Then you would have the oak floor, which is always the best type of oak floor. And there's like really nothing that would make any of these buildings stand out, to be
Ah,
honest.
that's interesting. She's saying they all look the same. Look at that. Okay, the boys are back. I'm ready if you want to... Yeah, I'm ready next time.
But it's not really surprising.
Let's do one more and then
when you
Hoi 4.
realize that it's solely a form of investment, most of the cases.
Genius. You have to think like that. That's so important. Most of the rich fuckers don't even want to live there. They just do it as an investment,
So
man.
it's really not.
That's why
about
they always
living
look so
there, it's
boring,
not
because no one
about
actually really
having
fucking lives there.
And it shows. It's really obvious when you are there. One of the most striking things was how agents are trying to always go out of their way to tell me that no one else lives in these buildings, that I'm not going to have any neighbors.
What? How does that make sense?
Billionaire road towers are investments for overseas and local people, so they'll rent them out or they'll just own them, have them sit empty for a number of years and resell them. It's a safe investment. It holds value over time, but what that translates to is buildings sitting empty.
That's a massive
There's a
problem.
trickle-down effect. So once the hyper-expensive properties become even more expensive, it raises the value of everything else beneath it.
I get very often the comment that this project is kind of like a Robin Hood project, in the sense that I'm getting the views which other people or most people cannot see to the public, and it's like being so high up, it's cool, but then it didn't feel good to be there in a way. Or one of the very big problems of these buildings, they are casting sometimes hundreds and hundreds of meters of shadows, for example, over the Central Park or over other people's up until then sunny living rooms, or just over the streets. And so somehow these buildings that are not even lived in are taking away such natural things.
Natural things. Have you looked at New York? If you want nature, you probably shouldn't be in New York.
There's a lot of money in New York, and I think there will always continue to be a lot of money in New York. I do think it's going to be more segregated.
What I learned from this project is really just how obscene differences are in society, I guess.
It's like, you know, you have a good job and you work your ass off and you actually make a better living. You go to the middle class, you have a house, you maybe even have a Porsche. Let's go, you even have a fucking Porsche, right? And you go out of your house and you're like, neighbors, I have more than you. But compared to the real big guys, you are nothing, man. You are nothing, dude.
And how
there's always a bigger fish, a much bigger fish, man.
Very literal, physical form in the city.
Like, you could have 10 million right now, you will still be a very small fish compared to these fuckers.
Is impacting everything around it.
Kind of crazy, man. Crazy. Okay, find a better ground before tomorrow.